Welcome back to another episode of Spotlight on the Arts, an independently produced show brought to you in part by the Chicopee Cultural Council and Chicopee TV. My name is Johnny Miranda, your host for the evening, and today we explore the new wave of digital content creators with the creator of Loz's Lounge, Karlos Reyes. So stay tuned and see Spotlight on the Art up next. And here we are with Karlos Reyes, the creator and founder of Loz's Lounge. Welcome to the show, Karlos.
Thank you. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you because it is very important to talk about this new wave of artists and this new wave of creators in the digital world, right? So artists are not just now musicians and singers and dancers. We have these content creators that are evolving in our social media platforms and on the internet, and you are part of these, right? How do you relate and how do you consider your artistry as a content creator?
So, great question, first of all, and good morning, and a big salute to everybody watching. First of all, I am an artist at heart too, because I also do poetry and I'm a dancer. Dance was always the first thing. We can talk about that later. But how it just relates to just creating content. I love being creative. I love producing work and being creative as possible. And the fact that podcasting allows me to do that is wonderful. And it also challenges me because I have to listen to other perspectives as well too, with my co-host and what have you, but it still keeps me creative. I love producing a show. I love coming up with the concept, and I certainly love talking. So, give me a microphone and a point of view and I'm ready,
And how did it evolve from your other artistic endeavors like dancing and poetry?
Yeah.
How did it go from that to you making the decision, I'm going to start a podcast?
So I feel like I came into the podcast world just a little bit late. But during the pandemic, I started in September 2020. It was suggested by a good friend who's also my ex-fiance, who's also on the show as well too. And he's like, you have to do this. Karlos, if you like it, and if you don't, then just delete your thing. I loved it, and I educated myself more around it. Season 1 to me it's kind of a hot mess, but it's still entertaining. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't really know what I was doing. But I'm, 3.5 years later, over 140 episodes, and we're still going strong. So come on now.
It's exciting, and it's definitely a journey, and you grow as you go. We ourselves here in the show have evolved as we go, right? There's a difference between our first season, second season, definitely there's growth. How do you choose the topics that you want to talk about in your podcast? How much thought do you give to it, or is it just a topic that comes about based on the guests?
Oh, I do give it thought, just because I always like to structure each show. However, on the other hand, there are episodes where it's just, let's just record and because that's really what podcasting is, isn't it? It's just a conversation. It's great to have a video podcast because you can see obviously people's reactions and the way they express themselves. We're not at that point yet, but to further answer your question, so I do like to plan things out and structure it, but then there's also the flip side of that. Let's just hit record and let's just talk and whatever's captured is captured. The show, I have to say, is a variety podcast show. And what I mean by that is I cover everything from mental health, self-care, music, poetry, the arts, hip hop, politics, social issues. This season, on season 3, what we've kind of geared towards more is hot topics. But I'm really especially proud of our last episode where we've kind of strayed a little bit from that, and we're talking about parenting. We're talking about being a father for the first time with my co-host Harry. I have 2 co-hosts. I'll get into that in a second. So it can, or sometimes they even bring ideas to the table. So I always talk about things that I'm super passionate about, that I'm very knowledgeable about. And if all else fails, hit record. Sometimes those are the best ones.
Right. There's
That was a really long answer, wasn't it?
No, that's perfect. There is
Come on now.
there is an element that content creators, podcasters, and video creators, there's an element that's shared among all artists, and that is the element of research, right?
Yes.
As a visual artist, before I create a piece, I like to think about. There's the element of spontaneity.
Yes.
But there is also the element when you are creating something, you want to research it to be
Yes.
as accurate as possible and to be relevant, like if it's a historic piece. How much research do you go into when you are?
If it's something that I'm super passionate about and I already just have life experience with it, I go with that. However, when it comes to like other topics, I will pull up a few different articles online just to get more statistics and data and just to have more, just to add the meat to the bone. I always cite my sources too. Sometimes I even like to read from the article because it just makes the conversation better. So I do some research, especially now more than ever, I feel like, because we were just talking about abortion recently in Arizona and just the overturning of that law over there. We were just talking about everything that's coming up with the legalities of the former president and what have you. I mean, a lot of the times, Johnny, I like to speak from the emotion part. And I love that when Harry is on as well, too, he comes with the statistics or facts too, so it can kind of bounce.
There's a balance among the hosts.
There is a balance. Oh,
so
yes.
Talk to me about your co-hosts. So who are they? How many are they? Do they change?
Yes, the show is because you don't want to just listen to me talk all the time. I don't even want to hear myself all the time. No, my show is what it is, and if it is anything, it's because of my co-hosts. So a big shout out to Harry. A big shout out to Jasmine. They are my elder statesmen at the show. And in the last 3 years, there's been a combination of guest co-hosts as well too. My co-hosts are incredible. Jasmine, she'll tune it, she'll broadcast in from New York. Harry, we are usually in person. So we'll put Jasmine that's my country accent, Jasmine. We'll put Jasmine on the Zoomer, and then we'll just create and I'll just produce it all in. They're wonderful. They're both parents. So they bring that aspect to it whenever we get into these topics. And also it's three alpha personalities on one show. It's fun. Jasmine's also my cousin. Harry's my best friend in the whole world. So we have our bromance episodes and we do a lot of hip hop talk, but there's a lot of honesty and vulnerability as well. Sometimes there's personal episodes. Relationships ebbs and flows. Harry and I certainly have ebbed and flowed. It's all my fault. I'll tell you right now, I'm guilty as charged. He's done nothing. But you hear those episodes even when he wasn't on the show. And then his return to the show. And I love that. I will say this, as much as I would love to be part of a network and signed, the main reason for the show is just when I'm not breathing anymore, that my family has that. And my close friends have that. And so that's my legacy that I leave behind. The show is very black and white. You're either going to love it or hate it. I'm going to be honest with you, but hopefully we can make you laugh and give you an hour's worth of just good entertainment.
So you are in different platforms?
Yes.
In different podcasting platforms. What are some of those platforms that you
Let's get
utilize?
into it. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Podcast Addict, Podbean, whatever your favorite podcast app player is, go check it out. You can listen to it from the browser, but I would love for everyone to subscribe and just hit that notification bar and just make sure you rate and review and get into it. So it's available on over 30 podcast apps right now, which is pretty cool.
Nice. So people, when you say to subscribe, are you talking about your YouTube channel?
And that as well too, the YouTube channel as well. I got to be honest with you. I do have several video episodes on the YouTube channel. For instance, we have Justin Haynes, international award-winning fashion designer, who is also, I saw, yeah. I've done my research. I know where I'm at. How dare you, sir? How dare you? Justin Haynes, recording artist Reese, who started her career in 2001, and she's actually one of my top favorite female artists of all time. So she's blessed the show 3 times. We've had gay adult film star Antonio Biaggi. A big shout out to Antonio, who's blessed the show, who's also an entrepreneur as well, twice. It's available on all your favorite podcast apps. And like I said, you can even just listen from the browser if you want. Nice. But subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's other content on there as well.
And what
artistic content.
What has prevented you, do you feel, from signing with a label, like you mentioned earlier?
So podcast is all about numbers. It's a numbers game, like anything else in life, right? Numbers don't lie. When I'm at 50,000 streams, I've started 3 years ago. My dream would have been to been in 500,000, 5 million, what have you. So numbers matter. When a network sees numbers and they tune in, if they like it, they're obviously going to sign you. I do have my normal jobs outside of work, what pays the bills and what have you. So hopefully someone out there is watching or listening or what have you. Shout out to iHeartMedia in Springfield. I keep looking at this camera. I was told earlier this is my camera. Call me. So that's the thing. To answer your question, why? Probably just, I'm going to be real, just due to lack of marketing. When I began, I was working as well with a podcast promoter, and he did all the promotion online. And it was beautiful to see those streams going up. I'll be honest, if I was still with him, I'm sure we would have been at that point now. But we went our separate ways, and I have to say, it made a huge difference. I'm so anti-social media. I love Instagram, but I can't, Johnny. It has done something that I just, you think about mental health and all that. I'm not compromising all that. I've already done that rabbit hole. So I like good art, and like I was telling Dave earlier, like art, like a good book, like a good album, the audience will find your show. Yeah.
No, definitely. One of the things that you talk about that I find it's very difficult in general for every artist and creator is that marketing aspect. And it's not, artists and creators are full around entrepreneurs. There's not just the element of creating the content or creating the art, but the element of publicizing it, marketing it, and networking. That's a whole nother beast. And people don't understand how much work it takes.
It takes a lot of work. And for Twitter, I used to have a Twitter, and Twitter, or X, I'm sorry, whatever they call it now. That's a whole nother world.
Yes.
That's I didn't know, I never had a Twitter.
Right. It is definitely another world.
I had to get rid of it.
I personally don't. I think I have a Twitter account. I don't even use it. Twitter. We keep saying Twitter when it's X.
I know it's X. I'm sorry. I'm sorry and I'm not sorry. How dare you, Elon Musk? How dare you?
But, there are all these different platforms that we can utilize, and sometimes you find yourself lost in which platform should I use? Where is my content being seen the most? And I think that we can explore a little bit on the audience of those platforms as it relates to the audience of the content that we create. But definitely, it's a whole nother beast. And it's difficult and it can be frustrating for artists at times when they engage in that part of their job, right? Marketing and publicity. I've seen a lot of artists that get discouraged when you get to that part. What are some of your influences in music, in movies, right? What are some of your influences that motivate you to create?
How much time do you have? Well, I'm wearing one. I don't know if the camera can see it.
Madonna.
That's all I'm saying. If you're gonna do it, go big.
We have to steer the conversation to Madonna.
No, I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna take it back away from her. I'm over it.
No,
I've been with her for 40 years. Okay, I got this at the tour. She's definitely artistically, media-wise. I come from the school of Dick Clark and the early 90s Howard Stern and even 80s Howard Stern. One of my big influences in media is the incomparable Wendy Joan Williams. Okay. Come on now. Her and how
what she's going through right now too.
Don't get me started.
Right.
Don't get me started. Because it could be anybody, really. It could be your aunt, it could be your father, it could be you. Those are my go-to. David Letterman, the school of David Letterman. Let me just tell you, David Letterman, when I was a young kid, I could care less about Leno and any of those guys. But when I was a young kid, Letterman, I would stay up late and watch Letterman every night. I still watch old episodes on YouTube. Those are my big inspirations in terms of media, and in terms of artistry. I'm inspired by a lot of people. I'm inspired by Reese. Big shout out to Reese. I'm inspired by the Queen, Madonna, Alicia Keys. But I'm also inspired by poets. Lynette Elizabeth Johnson, who is also one of my guests on the show. She's incredible. She's an incredible poet, a wonderful mother, and an incredible human being. So inspiration comes from anywhere. Even just look locally. You're inspiring. What you do. All right, I know him off air. Let's just be real. So just to see, like, from when you first came out here, so now I'm inspired by that. Look at how far you've come.
Yes, I remember. Now that you mention it, I remember that I did meet you when I first got
when you
here
first
from
came
Puerto
here,
Rico.
and he wasn't sure. And look where he's at now. Like, what am I gonna do with my time out here? I'm inspired by things like that. That's real life. So I might wear Madonna on the shirt, but
Nice.
Yeah, anything, man. I love poetry. I'm inspired by writers and whatnot as well.
What do you feel that you can tell those that are, maybe young kids out there, the community members that want to entertain the idea of content creation or podcasting? What can you tell them that'll motivate them to get started, or what can you tell them that will help them overcome some of the barriers that you had?
First of all, do it. First of all, do it. Even if you don't know what you're doing, just hit record and do it. But I will say one thing, or a couple of things to answer that. Sound is everything, as you guys know.
Yes.
Sound is everything. I mean, if you tune into season 1, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It's entertaining, but the sound was just, sound is everything. Talk about what you're passionate. Talk about what you know. Bring something to the table, and just go from there. You've heard us talk about the struggle of marketing. So if you're really into social media, if you're really into because the new kids, they know everything. I mean, in my head, it's only still Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I am more than sure there's 200 other social media maybe 2,000 or 2 million. So I'm sure I'm missing a lot. But this new generation, they're so much, they're creative. They're inspiring to watch too, even just the young kids.
And they have so many tools at their disposition.
Yeah.
In my job, I do counseling and I work with a lot of youth and high school students, and I run a little content creation group. So I do offer them workshops on creating content and sound and editing.
Yeah.
But these students, they are very well versed. It's been part of their generation growing up in social media. So
they are a culture of
yes.
and angles
Yes.
and what
And
works. They know.
It's not like they had to take a workshop or learn about it. It's kind of like even intuition for them.
They know.
I have a student that can record a content, and he just takes the videos to CapCut.
I don't even know what CapCut is. See?
And editing on their
I figured
phone,
as much
right?
by the name
editing
of it.
on their phone, and they can do a little clip and a video in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I were to do that, it would take me like recording this, uploading it to my computer, visualizing it, editing it there.
Yeah.
And he does everything right from his phone.
Super quick.
So technology obviously has helped a lot in the creative process for people. And I think this is why we have this new wave of creators, right? These digital creators, because technology has now come into the equation for creators.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think technology has always been in the equation. I mean, just given, it's always been part of the masses and part of the equation. It's just the way it changed and shaped throughout the years. As we know, I mean, technology in the last 25 years has gone from 0 to 100, if not beyond. You remember the days of dial-up and just those damn AOL discs that would arrive every 2 minutes at one's house.
I still hear the sound in the background.
Do you remember?
Yes.
I don't want to
dial-up.
sound like I'm dating myself. I mean, I'm only 19 still.
And
no,
so they say.
times 2, times 3. Now listen, but you remember, so I think it's just a matter of the hustle and who wants it bad and how far are you willing to go. The thing is about now, it's all about viral moments. And I mean, these kids are making, I see people making good money on even just YouTube, off just monetization and what have you. I wish I was more versed in that and had more time to do that, because people are making damn good money. Let's just face it.
But also, we live regular lives.
Come on now.
We have regular jobs, regular individuals
Come on
in our
now.
community.
Tell them, Johnny.
There are individuals that are content creating that literally they don't. This is all.
That's all they do.
That's
yeah.
all they do from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed.
But that's
they're content
fascinating.
creating
That's
or
good.
being live, and yes, it is fascinating. It's fascinating, except when you don't have to pay bills, it's even more fascinating.
Well, we don't know that. Let's not generalize everybody.
Right.
Maybe we don't know that. We don't know. Listen, that's the thing, but that's where we're going to, isn't it? Like, even in society, people working now more from home, people wanting to do more from home.
Right.
And the pandemic certainly brought that time for us to be a lot more creative, to find out what are our passions. Am I tired of going to work from 9 to 5 and working for the man? What can I do now? And that brought out, apart from a lot of negative things, that brought out a lot of beautiful things as well too. And people have their own small businesses, you know, you name it. It started my podcast. I mean, and I'm still going 3.5 years later. Don't forget, it's available. I keep looking at this camera because he told me earlier, this is your camera. Okay, it's available, Los's Lounge, on your favorite podcast app. Go.
And what's the future for Los's Lounge? Where do you envision you going with your podcast? How do you see it evolving? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to have on your show?
Oh, let's speak this into, I'd love to have
Speak it
her,
into existence,
but
yes.
I don't think that's going to happen. I want to sound back. Can I take these off and put these here for a second? I'm sorry. Claudia Jordan. Camera, once again, look at me. Claudia Jordan. Do you know who Claudia Jordan is?
No.
All right, so Claudia Jordan, former Miss Rhode Island. She was in all the music videos, R&B music videos. She was like the it music video girl back in the late 90s, early 2000s. She was on Real Housewives of Atlanta, Let's Make a Deal. She was just recently on NBC, Let's Make a Deal, the Island edition. She has her own talk shows, Foxhole, TGIF, Queens with Comedy. She's not Queens of Comedy, Cocktails with the Queens, which is now canceled, but that's okay. Look her up. Claudia Jordan is awesome. I love her because she reminds me a little bit of my sisters, and she kind of doesn't look like my sisters, but I don't know, she just reminds me of Leslie and Angie, my two sisters. So she and I have developed a pretty cool social media Instagram friendship, and I mean, even earlier when I was waiting, she sent me a message. So I would love to have Claudia Jordan. I haven't asked her yet, just because I don't want to be that guy to I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, that's why you're friends with me, or that's why you're connecting with me. Yeah, because that's just not who I am. But what I have found, if you just ask people, they will say yes.
They're more
sometimes.
than willing. Yeah.
I mean, Antonio did it, Reese did it. Everyone said yes. So I'm a little nervous to ask her. I would love to have her. To answer your question, what's the direction? More video. I would love to have more video content on in terms of what we're doing on the show. But I'm also from the old school. I like listening to things, you know what I mean? It makes all the difference. More conversations. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So we'll just continue to evolve as the times change and continue to really grow on our topics. Like I said, it's a variety podcast show. We've done our LGBTQ plus pride episodes. We've done our mental health episodes. We have done everything. That kitchen table family talk, literally where there is just my family around the table. And we're capturing those memories. And hopefully it's entertaining. There's a lot of poetry as well, too. I read a lot of poetry, and there's a lot of vulnerability on the show.
Right.
Yeah.
And are you always producing your show in a controlled environment, in a particular set, or do you go out into different places to do
That's
your
a great
recording?
question. Both yes and yes. So yes, controlled, whether it's in my home or at Harry's home. But I've done some field stuff. Like, for instance, last year I covered the Springfield Jazz Roots and Festival. And that was exciting. And we got to speak with vendors and artists and what have you, and local business owners. And you can hear the sounds in the background and what have you. So I'm hoping to do that again this year. The Springfield Jazz Festival is coming July 12th and 13th, I think. That might be a Saturday.
Maybe you can also join the Chicopee Cultural Council
Come on now.
the Chicopee Pride Fest on June 15th.
Come on now.
I had
Come on
to put
now.
the plug in. On June 15th, there's the Chicopee Pride Fest, and definitely we would love to have content creators join us in our festival.
It would
so
be a
that
pleasure.
You can talk about LGBTQ issues. I mean, I think that it is a hot topic. There's a lot going on in the community, especially with the
Yes.
banning of drag queens and transgender individuals. I think that definitely that would be something to explore.
Yes, but I will tell you, I'm a straight shooter. Like Wendy Williams says, pow pow. You know, we might not agree on everything, though.
Of course not.
But we can certainly agree to disagree, shake hands,
Right.
and then go have
And
some
that's
whiskey
the
right
richness.
afterwards and throw back a beer.
That's the richness.
That's what life's about.
Creating, yeah.
That's what life's about, you know, especially in this country. You know, here's why I say that, and I won't stay on this topic too long because you know you say one wrong thing these days, right? With our culture, with our community, I love our community. I love the doors that people and leaders in our community, in the gay community, if anyone's still wondering what community I'm talking about, but who have opened the door for us in media, in social issues and what have you. But I feel like maybe not just the gay community. I just feel like everyone is so sensitive now these days. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree.
I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know what my point is, but my community, no, I know what my point is. My community, I'm watching you guys. It's just so sensitive. It's just so much been happening. I don't know. We've been having a lot thrown at us, but I think humanity has forgotten its sense of humor in a lot of things.
Right. I think as generations go by, you know, we kind of shape each generation with particular ideals. And I think that sometimes we're sensitive to things or we're desensitized to others. You know, we might be sensitive with this particular issue, but we can see down the street a crime happening in a busy city and we're desensitized to it because we're so used to it. So I think that it's interesting to analyze that. It's interesting to talk about it and acknowledge that exists.
Absolutely.
So definitely Lowe's Lounge is on your different streaming platforms.
Spotify.
You can also look for Lowe's Lounge and Karlos in YouTube and Instagram.
Yeah.
What are those accounts?
Oh, yes. So on Instagram, at Lowe's Lounge _podcast. Twitter, just type in Lowe's Lounge Podcast. I'm sure you'll see it there. There's other artistic ventures. There's performances. There's poetry readings. There's just a variety of entertaining things on there. So please check that out. And don't forget to hit subscribe on whatever podcast app you're listening to. And leave a comment. Reach out to me. Reach out to me. Let me know what you think of the show.
Supporting our content creators is so important. And I think that you should all go subscribe to Lowe's Lounge on YouTube. And you can listen to the podcast and the different topics that Karlos brings to the table along with his co-hosts.
Yeah, when are you going to come on?
I will whenever.
All right. Well, I'm here in your house now, so I'm telling you, please come on.
I will.
You need to be my next guest, effective immediately. Okay.
Definitely, I'll be on your show.
Come share your magic on the show. We need you, man.
Let's get it. I will. And you, my beautiful Chicopee audience, make sure that you follow Karlos in his endeavors.
Yes.
I love when people are creating spaces for other artists to come on and share their process. So I really appreciate you having you on the show.
Bro. I appreciate you.
And please continue to do what you're doing. Let's talk about different future projects, and I would love to have more collaboration.
Please and thank you. I'm gonna hold you to it.
Our audience, make sure you follow him. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Johnny Miranda. I'll see you next time.